If you asked anyone in the late 90s who ran Bad Boy Records, they'd say Sean Diddy Combs without hesitation. But if you asked the people closest to him, the artists, the stylists, the women navigating that world, they'd give you a different name: Kim Porter. She wasn't on the album covers or the Forbes lists. She didn't demand the spotlight. But for over a decade, she was the one holding the empire together, raising the children, mentoring the rising stars, and quietly building a network that would outlast any chart-topping single. Then, in November 2018, at just 47 years old, she was gone. The woman who'd spent her life in the background suddenly became the story everyone wanted to understand. This is about the supermodel who raised a hip-hop dynasty, and what happened when the heart of that empire stopped beating. Kim Porter didn't wait for permission. Born and raised in Columbus, Georgia, she graduated high school in 1988 and moved straight to Atlanta with modeling ambitions and no safety net. The industry she walked into wasn't kind to dark-skinned Black women. Colorism ran deep in fashion and entertainment, where lighter skin often meant more work, more visibility, more value. But Kim broke through anyway. By the early 1990s, her face appeared in Essence and Jet, and she was showing up in fashion and entertainment spaces where seeing a woman who looked like her felt like a small revolution. She wasn't just modeling. In Atlanta, Kim helped build an event-driven creative space with close collaborators that gave unknown talent their first real chances. Open mic stages, introductions, the kind of early support that quietly changes trajectories. One of those artists was Janelle Monáe, who would later say she was forever indebted to Kim Porter for inviting her to perform and helping connect her with the right people. Monáe called Kim a connector, a champion of women in the industry, a boss moving through this life with so much style and grace. That was Kim before the empire, before the headlines, before anyone outside Atlanta knew her name. Already building something that mattered, already lifting people up without asking for credit. She also tried acting. Small roles on Law and Order, Wicked Wicked Games, Single Ladies. A part in The Brothers in 2001, another in Mama, I Want to Sing in 2012. None of it made her famous, but all of it showed her range, her willingness to try, her refusal to be boxed in. Kim Porter didn't wait to be discovered. She was already at work. Before there was Diddy, there was Al B. In 1991, at just 20 years old, Kim gave birth to her first son, Quincy Brown. His father was R&B singer Albert Brown, and the pregnancy inspired one of the era's most enduring love songs. He co-wrote Forever My Lady by Jodeci, an ode to Kim carrying their child. She would later recall him coming up with the famous lyric, "So you're having my baby," when he found out she was pregnant. The song became a slow jam classic, playing at weddings and late-night radio dedications for years. Kim's love story was woven into pop culture before most people even knew who she was. But the relationship with Al B sure didn't last. By the early 90s, it was over, and Kim was raising Quincy on her own. In the mid-1990s, she met Sean Combs while they were both moving through the Uptown Records world. He was still puffy then, a young talent director with a reputation for hustle and vision. The romance started quietly, two ambitious people finding each other at the beginning of something neither could yet name. By the time he launched Bad Boy Records and began building his empire, Kim was already there, steady, grounded, the calm in the storm of his rise. Friends would later say that behind every bad boy, there's usually a woman assisting and uplifting him as he attempts to conquer the world. In Sean Combs' case, that woman was Kim Porter. She never chased fame. Her focus stayed on raising her son, supporting her partner, and building a life that didn't need a spotlight to matter. The mid to late 90s were Kim's years of becoming. In 1998, she and Diddy welcomed their son, Christian Casey Combs. Diddy was ecstatic. Fatherhood seemed to ground him, at least for a while. Kim, meanwhile, became a fixture at his side, gracing red carpets and appearing in glamorous photo shoots, though always with a certain restraint, a refusal to demand attention. Fans affectionately called her the First Lady of Bad Boy Records, and the title stuck because it felt true. She represented something aspirational for young Black women: beauty, strength, presence without apology. This was the era when hip-hop and high fashion were colliding, and Kim Porter stood at that intersection, embodying what people would later call Black girl magic before the term existed. But the label First Lady also hid what Kim was actually doing. While Diddy built Bad Boy into a cultural juggernaut, she managed the chaos. She raised their son. She kept Diddy grounded when the fame and pressure threatened to pull him in too many directions. Friends described her as having a soothing spirit and an electrifying smile, the kind of person who could walk into a room and immediately make it feel safer, warmer. She was the glue, the one who held things together when everything else felt like it might fall apart. And then came the cracks. In 1999, the Club New York case pulled Sean into a public storm that led to a highly publicized trial and an eventual acquittal. But the bigger truth is their relationship was already complicated. On and off, private when the cameras weren't rolling, and hard to keep steady inside that level of pressure. By the early 2000s, they weren't together, and Kim kept doing what she always did, protecting the kids from the chaos. After the split, Diddy began dating Jennifer Lopez. It was 1999, and the relationship became one of the most talked about romances in entertainment. Every red carpet appearance, every magazine cover, every paparazzi photo, all of it documented a love affair that felt larger than life. For Kim, it meant something else entirely: watching the father of her child with another woman, seeing that relationship play out in a way hers never had, in public, with fanfare, with the kind of visibility that made her own absence feel intentional. She stayed silent. No tell-all interviews, no tabloid retaliation, no public bitterness. Kim raised Christian while Diddy and Jennifer Lopez became the face of a new kind of celebrity power couple. The humiliation of it was compounded by the fact that she couldn't speak without seeming jealous, couldn't grieve without seeming bitter. So she didn't. She just endured. The Jennifer Lopez relationship lasted about 2 years. By 2003, it was over, and Diddy came back. Kim took him back. Whether that was forgiveness or something more complicated, hope maybe, or exhaustion, or the belief that love could survive anything if you wanted it badly enough. She gave the relationship another chance. In December 2006, she gave birth to twin daughters, Delilah Starr and Jessie James. For a moment, the family felt whole. 3 children together, a blended household that included Quincy and Diddy's other son, Justin. It looked like they'd made it work. Then came July 2007. News broke that Diddy had fathered a daughter with another woman, Sarah Chapman. The child, Chance, was already a year old. The revelation was devastating. Kim had suspected something was wrong. She would later say in an interview with Essence that she'd had an intuition, the kind of knowing that comes before proof but hurts just as much once it arrives. After 13 years of on and off love with Sean Combs, after weathering the J-Lo years and trying again, this was the betrayal she couldn't forgive. She ended the relationship for good. In ending this relationship, I made a decision that was in the best interest of myself, Sean, and our family, she said at the time, her tone measured, careful, final. She didn't drag him publicly. She didn't turn the breakup into a war. She just walked away, choosing her own well-being over the cycle of hurt and reconciliation that had defined the previous decade. "You know how women have intuition?" she told Essence. Well, I had an intuition something was going on. The statement was simple, honest, and heartbreaking in its restraint. Diddy later acknowledged the split with respect, calling Kim and the other mothers of his children his best friends, and crediting them as strong, intelligent, beautiful Black women. He admitted he'd been blessed to have them in his life, a statement that read like regret wrapped in gratitude. But by then, Kim had already moved on, not from him entirely, but from the version of their relationship that required her to accept less than she deserved. What happened next surprised people. Instead of turning the breakup into a war, Kim leaned into co-parenting and kept the family lines open. Over the years, she and Sean were repeatedly described as staying close, even after the romance ended because the kids came first. Kim's real gift went beyond being civil. She built a structure where nobody's child felt like an outsider. In 2017, she posted a photo on social media that made people stop and stare. Kim, Diddy, their twin daughters, Chance and Sarah Chapman, all together smiling. The caption read, "Now we hear, blended family can't stop, won't stop." It was a statement, a declaration that love didn't have to look traditional to be real. Misa Hilton later wrote about their 20-year friendship, how she and Kim had an unspoken understanding about what it meant to raise children in Diddy's world, how they talked about their kids' futures and how to support them in business. Kim made space for everyone. She set the table, literally and figuratively, and made sure no child felt like an outsider. Quincy was still little when Sean entered Kim's life, and over time, Sean helped raise him as his own. Quincy has spoken publicly about the bond and the role Sean played in his upbringing, but that family identity wasn't something the tabloids created. Kim built it at home. In her world, the kids weren't his or hers. They were siblings, period. While Diddy dominated headlines, Kim built something quieter and more lasting. Her home became a gathering place for friends and young people coming up around the industry, a safe space where they could unwind, ask for advice, or just exist without the pressure to perform. Actress Keke Palmer was one of those people. As a teenager navigating Hollywood, Palmer wrote that she would go over to Kim's house and spend entire afternoons there, often leaving with a gift or something Kim had given her. "You would tell me everything I needed to learn, never holding back and always keeping it fun," Palmer said in a tribute after Kim's death, describing Kim as a stabilizing force during a difficult time. Kimora Lee Simmons, the supermodel and fashion designer, was one of Kim's closest friends. "Your light was a beaming beacon for so many," she wrote after Kim passed. "You are a girl's girl, which is why we've stayed close always." Kim had been a bridesmaid in Kimora's 1998 wedding to Russell Simmons, and the two had remained tight through decades of life changes, always showing up for each other. Carlene Roy, who interned at Bad Boy and later founded a luxury events agency, credited Kim with teaching her everything from how to make pancakes to navigating the entertainment industry. Kim even took her to get her first weave done and gave her styling tips. "KP, thank you for letting me get my first big girl weave in your bathroom," Roy wrote in a grateful note, adding that Kim also put me on to the fact that tequila straight up was 0 calories. It was the mix of big sister warmth and savvy guidance that made Kim beloved. She didn't seek credit. She didn't need it. Aoki Lee Simmons, Kimora's daughter, observed after Kim's death that she loved everyone in such a quiet way and brought light to everyone's lives without calling attention to herself. That was Kim's power. She uplifted people without needing the spotlight, mentored without demanding recognition, built an empire of love and influence that only became visible to the world once she was gone. One writer noted that Kim took the big bravado of the bling-bling era and translated it into a quiet power, energy, and strength, especially for Black women trying to make their mark in a predominantly white, male industry. She didn't just survive in that world, she changed it, one person at a time, one act of generosity at a time. The call came on a Thursday morning. Kim Porter, 47 years old, was found unresponsive at her home in Toluca Lake, California. She was pronounced dead at the scene. In the days before, she'd been dealing with what appeared to be flu-like symptoms: fever, congestion, the kind of illness most people expect to pass with rest and time. No one imagined it would turn fatal. The emergency call reported a patient in cardiac arrest. By the time paramedics arrived, it was too late. The initial autopsy findings were inconclusive. Her death certificate listed the cause as deferred, pending further tests, and for more than 2 months, questions lingered. What had happened? How does someone so vibrant, so full of life, die so suddenly? In late January 2019, the Los Angeles County Department of Medical Examiner Coroner announced the official cause: lobar pneumonia, a severe infection in one lobe of her lungs, progressing faster than her body could fight it. Natural causes, no foul play, just a common illness that turned deadly in a matter of days. The shock was immediate and overwhelming. Sean "Diddy" Combs later spoke openly about the loss, making it clear how deeply it affected him. Days after her death, he broke his silence with an emotional Instagram post. "For the last 3 days, I've been trying to wake up out of this nightmare, but I haven't," he wrote. "I don't know what I'm going to do without you, baby. I miss you so much." He described their bond as something deeper than labels, something that went beyond time and circumstance. The rawness of his grief showed the world what those closest to them had always known. Kim Porter was the center of his family, even if he hadn't always known how to protect that while she was here. The tributes poured in from everywhere. Rihanna posted photos of Kim with her children, writing, "This is heavy. We lost a real one today. Beautiful inside and out. The whole world was graced by the vibrance in your spirit. Such a special soul, man. This doesn't even feel real." Nicki Minaj called the news the most heartbreaking and sent condolences to Kim's children and Diddy. Drake posted a photo of Kim at one of his concerts, captioning it, "Sending peace and prayers. Love y'all, and I am so sorry." Viola Davis, Lala Anthony, Kimora Lee Simmons, Keke Palmer, all of them shared memories, grief, disbelief. The recurring theme in every tribute was that Kim Porter radiated love. She uplifted people quietly and genuinely, and now that she was gone, the magnitude of her absence felt unbearable. On November 24, 2018, just over a week after her passing, hundreds of mourners gathered in Kim's hometown of Columbus, Georgia for her funeral. It was an elegant, tear-filled homegoing service. Diddy arranged for Kim's casket to arrive in a horse-drawn carriage, a final royal touch for the queen of his heart. Famed pastor T.D. Jakes officiated the ceremony. During the service, Diddy delivered an emotional eulogy, fighting back tears as he pledged to their children that he would always be there for them. "Your mother instilled in me this. I will always take care of you," he vowed, addressing Quincy, Christian, Jesse, Delilah, and also Justin and Chance, whom Kim had embraced as part of their extended family. Turning specifically to his twin daughters, just 12 years old at the time, he added with a note of humor and protectiveness, "To the girls especially, we're about to enter some different type of times. I want you to be able to talk to me about everything, and I mean everything." The congregation applauded through their tears. As the funeral commenced, Diddy tweeted, "Today we lay to rest our angel. Her spirit lives on with us forever." Kim Porter was laid to rest at Evergreen Memorial Park in Columbus, and as loved ones said their final goodbyes, there was an overwhelming sense that an irreplaceable light had gone out way too soon. In the years after her death, Kim's influence kept revealing itself in unexpected ways. Diddy admitted publicly, "I played myself by not marrying Kim," a regret he carried with visible weight and spoke about openly. He reflected on taking love for granted, using her absence as a warning to others about waiting too long to recognize what matters most. In 2023, he released a song titled Kim Porter on his new album, featuring Babyface and John Legend, as a musical tribute to the woman he called his soulmate. Her children, Quincy, now an actor and musician, Christian King Combs, following his father's footsteps into music, and twin daughters Jessie and Delilah, who by their late teens had already started modeling, carried her spirit forward. They were her legacy, the clearest evidence of what Kim built with her life. But in 2024, when Sean Combs faced serious federal charges, allegations he denied and that were entirely unrelated to Kim, online speculation about her death flared up again. Al B., Kim's first love and Quincy's father, publicly called for a re-examination of her passing, suggesting there might be more to the story. On social media, wild theories multiplied, including claims that Kim had been working on a tell-all memoir and that something about her death had been covered up. None of it was verified, and it landed as something uglier than gossip, a spectacle built on a family's worst loss. In September 2024, Kim Porter's 4 children felt compelled to speak out. Quincy, Christian, Jessie, and Delilah released a rare joint public statement addressing what they called hurtful and false rumors about their mother. They categorically denied that Kim had written any secret memoir. She did not, and anyone claiming to have a manuscript is misrepresenting themselves, they clarified. More importantly, they forcefully rejected the conspiracy claims about her death. The cause of her death has long been established. There was no foul play, the Combs siblings wrote, emphasizing that it was already devastating enough to lose their mother suddenly, without having to see her memory dragged through the internet. We are deeply saddened that the world has made a spectacle of what has been the most tragic event of our lives, they continued, pleading for the public to let their mother rest in peace and not to taint her memory with horrific conspiracy theories. They described how Kim Porter was their world and that nothing had been the same since she passed. In closing, they asked people to honor Kim's legacy with respect, remembering her as the beautiful, strong, kind, and loving woman she was, instead of letting online noise drown out the truth of her life. Their statement was a defense of her honor, but it was also a glimpse into the ongoing pain her family endures. Grief doesn't end. It shifts, adapts, becomes something you carry instead of something that carries you. Kim's children reminded the world of that. Their mother was never a storyline. She loved them, built a family out of heartbreak, and mentored people without asking for recognition. She became the architect of a blended family that should have been impossible, the quiet force behind a hip-hop empire, the woman who translated an era's bravado into something softer, stronger, and more enduring. Kim Porter's story is one of love and resilience, of heartbreak turned into grace, of influence that only became fully visible after she was gone. Perfection was never the point. She raised 4 children, supported and encouraged rising talent, and built bridges where others would have built walls. She earned the title of First Lady of Bad Boy Records through presence, not ceremony, while also building an empire of her own, one rooted in love, connection, and quiet power that never needed a spotlight to matter. Her sudden death left a void no fame or success could fill, but her legacy lives on in the people she helped steady, the family she held together, and the example she set for what it means to keep loving even when the world isn't listening. Kim Porter was more than the woman behind a hip-hop dynasty. She was the force that held it all together and whose absence finally revealed how much she'd been carrying all along.